Hello, everyone. My name is Juliet. I'm 8 years old when my world turned upside down. I lived in a small, sun-baked village on the edge of a vast city. My father worked as a mechanic, and my mother, though quiet and sometimes distant, would sing soft lullabies to me at night. For a time, it seemed like my life was filled with warmth. The warmth of my mother's embrace, the smell of freshly baked bread from my father's shop, and the comfort of knowing that everything I needed was close by. But as time passed, I began to notice small changes. My parents would argue late at night when I was supposed to be asleep, and the sounds of their quarrels pierced the thin walls of their modest home. I didn't fully understand what they were fighting about, but I could sense that something was wrong. My father would work late, and my mother would spend long hours pacing the house, looking restless. One afternoon, I came home from school to find my mother packing a small suitcase. The usual aroma of food was missing from the kitchen, and my father was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Papa?" I asked, her voice trembling. My mother paused, wiped a tear from her cheek, and sighed. "Papa is not coming back, Juliet. I'm going to live somewhere else now. You'll stay here with him." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She wanted to cry, but her throat felt tight. "But I don't want you to leave. I need you." My mother gave me a long, sad look. "I'm sorry, Juliet. This is what's best for both of us." And with that, she turned and walked out of my life, leaving me standing in the middle of our small living room, heartbroken and confused. My father tried his best to take care of me, but life without my mother was difficult. The joy I had once shared was replaced by silence. My father, though loving, was consumed by his work. There were bills to pay, a shop to run, and the weight of our shattered family. Food became scarce. I noticed the change immediately. Meals that once felt like celebrations became smaller, and sometimes there was nothing but plain rice or a few pieces of stale bread. One day, I began to feel unusually weak. My legs ached, and I felt a strange swelling in my belly. My skin became tight and shiny, like it was stretched too thin over my bones. My father didn't understand what was happening. He was too caught up in his own struggles to notice that I was slipping away, slowly and painfully. In the weeks that followed, my condition worsened. My hair began to thin and turn pale, and I couldn't seem to stop feeling hungry, even though there wasn't much food in the house. My body was craving nourishment that it could no longer find. One afternoon, when my father finally noticed the swelling in my abdomen and the way my skin had taken on an unhealthy sheen, he took me to the clinic in the city. The doctor examined me and immediately recognized the symptoms. "She has kwashiorkor," the doctor said, his voice grim. "It's a severe form of malnutrition caused by a lack of protein. She's been eating too much starch and not enough of the nutrients she needs to survive." My father was devastated. He had always tried to provide, but he hadn't known that his daughter was suffering from a silent, unseen illness. He felt a crushing sense of guilt. He had failed me. The doctor gave him instructions on how to care for me, emphasizing the importance of proper nutrition, but my body was already weakened by months of neglect. Back at home, my father did his best to follow the doctor's advice. He scrounged for better food, even borrowing money from neighbors. But it was hard. My body was fragile, and recovery would take time. I spent days lying on a mat in our small home, unable to play or laugh, my once bright eyes dull and distant. As the days passed, I became more and more aware of the absence of my mother. She would often whisper my name, Mama, as if calling me back, but there was no answer. The woman who had once promised to protect me, to love me, was nowhere to be found. It was as if I had been abandoned twice, first by my mother and now by the food and care I needed to survive. Despite the hardships, my father never stopped trying. He stayed by my side, comforting me, singing to me in the soft, tired voice he used when I was a baby. And though I still missed my mother, I began to understand the deeper truth. Sometimes the people we love leave us, but we can still find strength in those who remain. My father, though imperfect, had done what he could to keep me alive. And in that small, quiet house, as the sun dipped below the horizon each evening, they both clung to the hope that life could still be beautiful, even after everything had fallen apart. I use this medium to thank my dad for not leaving me like my mum did. I love you, Dad,